You tuned in live to Credible Conversations podcast.
Hey everybody, I'm Angela Rye. I'm here with Northwest Credible Messengers having a credible conversation with some incredible people.
AKEE Ali is who I be, also known as Kimi Casanova, and I want you to bring your asses over to listen to me have a credible conversation with Northwest Credible Messengers.
Hey, my name is D Smoke. I'm from Inglewood, California, and you are watching Credible Conversations. Let's go!
Happy New Year and welcome back to Credible Conversations. I'm your host, Jason Clark. And today, we're trying to do something fresh and new. We're really thinking about conversations with leaders around our state who are making moves in community. And today we got a young, fresh, and aspirational leader, Jesse Johnson, on the show. Jesse, how you been, bro?
Doing good,
It's been a minute, man. I feel like met you 10 years ago and just kind of watching your journey. You've been doing something fabulous, man.
Appreciate that. We kind of came together at the same time, our respective careers, you know, politics and your work. So it's awesome to be here.
Perfect overlap. I'm glad to have you on the show. And just giving people a glimpse into who you are, right? I've seen you accomplish so much in the last 10 years. And I don't know if people realize like how young you are, right? To be able to accomplish all of these things. So I got some questions for you today. And I think one of the first ones I want to just ask is to give people an opportunity to get to know who you are. So who is Jesse Johnson?
Federal Way kid, born and raised,
Okay.
Come from the community. I always say, you don't know a community till you've trick-or-treated in that community, right?
Ooh-wee.
So from Federal Way, whether it be, West Point, Marine Hills, Redondo, I'm from this community and seen it grow, and I've kind of grown with it. One of the things that I experienced here was coming into a community that was particularly more of a white, affluent retirement community in the 90s to what we see now being so diverse. I think it's the second most diverse city in the state.
Yeah.
And so went to Federal Way High School, go Eagles, was a scholar athlete, ran track and field, got an opportunity to go run track and field at the University of Washington. When I went to the UW, that was kind of a big change for me coming from Federal Way because it's not diverse over in Seattle. And so it was an experience to see. I started out thinking I was going to, be a business major and go make money or whatever the case may be. And I remember I took a urban politics class, Dr. Christopher Parker, and learned about the political system and kind of our experience as Black people in the political system. And that changed my whole trajectory. Of course, that was the same time Obama was running. This is 2008. Changed my major. I remember telling my parents, I'm going to do poli-sci. I'm going to change my major to political science. And they're like, what? Like, you're interested in politics? I'm like, yeah. I kind of like the idea of trying to be a community leader, trying to be a public servant. And so I switched my major over, and the rest is kind of history. And, obviously went into education, but then city council, state legislature, and a lot of things have happened since. And so, I'm sure we'll get into that. But I think, one of the biggest things for me has always been service to the community that I grew up in.
Yeah.
And so being from Federal Way, I just love the city so much. So it's a part of who I am.
Man, that's a powerful story. Just thinking of all the transitions that you went through and the experiences that you had, kind of makes me wonder about the career, right? Like from what I know about you, you were at Highline Community College. You transitioned into Federal Way and did a lot of powerful work, not just with the city council, but with community groups as well, right?
Yeah.
Always been a community advocate from the lens that I've seen you, in the way that I've seen you interact and be in community. So I applaud you for all of that, heavy lifting and that hard work, because it was hard work. Can you tell us a little bit more about your career and the growth that you've had?
Yeah, so I started in education. My first job out of UW was as the African-American recruiter in the admissions office. So
Ooh-wee.
I got to go out to high schools and try to get more Black kids into the UW. And that was really cool because it gave me an opportunity to speak with young people, see what was on their minds, see like what trajectories they had and how I can support them in that journey. And after that, I went into work at Seattle Public Schools. I thought I was going to go to the teaching route, started student teaching, and I was like, you know what? The classroom and kind of the bureaucracy of the school system isn't really for me.
True story.
I went into equity work, and I actually got a job as an equity coordinator with Seattle Public Schools first, and started equity teams in the district. trying to get more representation for families of color, disenfranchised families in the district. And then, 2016 hits. I decide, you know what, I think I want to go back into politics. And I start gearing up to run for city council in my hometown here in Federal Way. Ran for city council in 2017 and knocked on over 15,000 doors in the community. Beat a 2-term incumbent that's been here a long time. And I remember still winning that race and just like, man, like that amount of people bubbled in my name for a race. Like, that's crazy to me.
I don't want to cut you off, but I just want you to let everybody know. How old were you when you made that accomplishment?
27. So I was elected at 27.
Come on.
Yeah. So that was, I think I was naive, right? So you don't know like what you're going to get into when you first sign up to run for office. But as I got going, I was like, you know what? I'm pretty good at galvanizing people in the community to come out. I knew the issues because I'm from here. Yep. I knew that, we had a lot of people that were concerned about the homelessness crisis, public safety, community safety. And then also education. Like, we are concerned about the future of our kids. And those issues weren't being talked about at the city council. And we had never had someone under the age of 35 on the city council. And powerful. So got to run and win that race and serve a full term in the city council. I'm proud of some of the work that we did. So we started our first ever youth commission that we've never had in the city. So we had youth advisors to the mayor, to the city council.
That's nice.
We started an apprenticeship ordinance to try to get young people in the trades on our projects around the city. And then I started an emerging leaders program, a mentorship program for youth as well. So a lot of my work has to do with youth because of my background. And then from there, ran for state legislature in 2020, right before the pandemic hit. And so I decided, I think a lot of these issues are regional and statewide. And so let's take it on up to the state level in Olympia. So that's kind of like my journey. I feel like my journey is always like seasonal, right? So like I feel like this calling. I'm definitely highly spiritual, and sometimes I feel this calling to get in these different spaces because no one that looks like me is in those, and I feel like that's something that God gave me, this opportunity, and so why not? Yeah.
Come on, it's powerful, and you said you felt like teaching was the thing, and I just want to affirm the fact that you're teaching a lot of us, right, just through watching your journey. So thank you for all that you do. Knowing a little bit about your story and just thinking about everything that you've accomplished, there was a point where I believe in 2022 you stepped away from the legislature. Like what stands out to me, right, is there's this Roots song. You like the Roots?
Yeah, I do. I do. Yeah.
And Black Thought said, I tell you one lesson I've learned. If you want to be something in life, you ain't going to get it unless you get a little sacrifice. So knowing that you stepped away from all of these accomplishments that you had achieved at such a young age, like, can you tell us a little bit more about why you made that sacrifice? And what was the impact from it?
My grandmother always told me that obedience is better than sacrifice.
Ooh, yeah.
And being able to have these revelations from the Lord and obey those revelations. And when I ran for office, it was the timing. It was post Donald Trump had just got elected in 2016. And I think I remember going to my job the next day and people were crying in the schools because they were afraid about what this guy was going to do. And it was a perfect time to get into politics and have that local representation. Yeah. Same with 2020. George Floyd had just happened, and a lot of community members wanted someone to work on police accountability issues, which, of course, I worked on at the legislative level. So I'm really proud of that work that we did. And then, 2022 comes around. My wife's pregnant with our first kid. She's in medical residency, which is a journey of itself. And a lot of folks don't know, but politics and medicine are like the two highest divorce rate professions. Politics and medicine. I don't know why that is. I'm just sure there's a lot behind that, but
studious careers, a lot of time. And it was challenging. I feel like I wasn't able to be present for her during that first pregnancy like I needed to be, working on those bills, spending 14-hour days in Olympia, and then I kind of had this calling, like, what, the most revolutionary thing I can do right now is be the best husband and partner and father that I could be. That's a powerful statement.
So I took that time because I feel like my family needed it, and really it's just priority. And so even though I love the work of being an elected official at most of the time, it does get tedious and it does get annoying when you got a lot of people coming at you. And I think one of the things for elected officials is you pour so much into others, you got to remember to have people pour into you, right? And so I've learned that since, and kind of being out to have like those mentors that I can lean on that I didn't have going through that process. And so I needed that time to just be the best partner I could be.
Come on, that's heavy. Very heavy and powerful. So hearing so much about the sacrifice, it was rooted in the investment in your family, right? And when you think about family, we know now you have 2 young sons, 2 handsome young men, who, with a father who's got so many accomplishments and so much aspiration. Like, I'm sure you're not even scratching the surface on where you want to go. When you think about your sons and family, like, what's the legacy that you want to leave for them?
I thought about this the other day, actually, because, when I look at my kids, like, you see a lot of yourself in your kids, right? I'm sure as a father, you see that as well. Definitely. You're like, dang, that part about me, I don't really like that, but I see it, though. Or, you're like, okay, I get it. I can relate to them.
Yeah.
And so I know that my kids need that hands-on presence. Every little thing that I do, they copy it. They are, if I'm in a bad mood, they'll be in a bad mood, too, with me. Or if I'm super happy, they'll be the same. So I think, having that first-hand presence with them is really important, especially as they go into school. So I think those early years, and that's something I had with my dad. My mom was deployed when I was young. She was in the Navy, and so I was with my dad a lot, my dad and my grandmother. And seeing him work and run his business and like how he moved, like it had a big impact on me and influence. And so I want to have that while my kids are, right now they're 5 and 2, but when they're young. And then as they enter school, I think that gives me a little bit more leverage to then do some of the things that I'd like to do as well, like re-enter politics in the next few years. But I want to have those early years, that foundation with them. And I think that's important.
That's dope. Just kind of hearing more about the sacrifice, right? You know that you're kind of like a slingshot, and this is going to propel you into your future, but also position your family to have a better future. I really appreciate that perspective. So thinking about the political aspiration, at the end of that, you said getting back into politics. Just the impact that you've made already, like you're so young and full of aspiration and possibility, right? You've contributed so much to the legislature, to the communities through the policies that you've worked on. What would you say the message that you have for those watching you and seeing your growth, right? Those young people who might be questioning what politics look like now, and potentially getting involved.
It's a different landscape than when I first got into politics. Like I said, 2008 when Obama was running, social media wasn't really, it was there, but it wasn't big then. A lot of it was grassroots, in person, like showing up at the barbershops. And I remember watching him on TV, like this guy's on the south side of Chicago doing a barbershop talk. He's community organizing. And then I feel like I kind of used some of that for my own experience when I ran for city council, getting out into the community, knocking on doors. But now a lot of it really is digital. It's social media. We're in like this digisphere of information, some of it true, some of it not true. And so you really got to be critical. You got to be a critical thinker. And I think right now young people need to really be careful about what they allow into their spirit, especially as it relates to social media. And I kind of say this too, like a lot of people mistake movement for progress and opportunity for calling. So opportunity is not every opportunity is the best thing. It really has to come from a purpose-driven mindset and a calling. And if you want to go into a politics, that's hard work, right? And so you got to first be able to say, I'm gonna serve the community first, right? And so I think that has to be there at the heart of it. Because if you're in there for a popularity contest, like, yeah, you could win, but once you start having to govern and actually do things on behalf of community,
there's a lot
that goes into that.
Politics.
There's a lot of politics in politics. And at least if you can say, I have a relationship with my community, I'm in the fabric of community, like I feel I tried to be. And of course, you're going to fail at times, but you try to be the best that you can and be the best version of yourself. At least you can say, like, okay, I understand the needs of community and I'm proximate to the pain of community. And I'm not, so far removed in Olympia or in DC, like in my own glass house making policy. And so I think that's super important. I would also say we got to be innovative. Like, I believe innovation is the best form of protest right now. That's what we're seeing across the world and what's happening at the national level. Like, we got to be innovative and creative. Government's so antiquated and like they do the same thing. It's kind of a copycat game where, it's working over there in California. Let's do it in Washington State. Or you got to be innovative and have your own, your own values, and also get information from community to help you achieve that. So I feel like that's super important if you're going into that space.
I really appreciate that perspective, because I think sometimes, we look at the systemic approach as a way that can, effectuate change in community. But having people who are embedded in community, who understand the community, like I've always seen that be the thing, right? So I really appreciate your perspective there. Thinking of like all of the things that you share today, man, I hear so much, right? Like a teacher, right? Even though you're not still pursuing that, you're doing that.
Yeah.
A father, a mentor, an active community member, a political leader, right? Being a director within a state department. I'm sure there's things that are pulling you in so many different directions. Like, what's the thing that you do to stay well, to stay healthy, to stay grounded?
For me, it used to be working out. Like, obviously, being a former athlete, like that was a big thing, and it still is. But I'm really getting into my spirituality right now, doing meditation. I'm learning that, and I think as you get older and you're just less. Like, I can't go run hoop and play pickup games at LA Fitness all day no more, because joints start hurting and muscles at 36. I didn't have that issue at 26. But so now I'm like, okay, I got to lean more onto my meditation. It's kind of like an aging player like LeBron or something. Like, he can't high fly and dunk all day no more, so he has to rely on a fadeaway or a post-up game. You got to start switching it up. So I think for me, it's meditation. It's like really getting my mind right, which I do every night now. I love the podcast that Jason Wilson's doing for young men of color around your spirituality and meditation. And so, I think that's a big part of what I'm doing. Traveling too, getting new perspectives traveling. So I get to experience my first time, besides Canada, out of the country here in a few months. I'm going to the UK on a trip to with local leaders to study their apprenticeship model in London and Oxford. And I'm looking forward to just that experience of being outside of the U.S. for a while and getting some new perspectives. So things like that, I think, help keep your mind right.
What's on the travel bucket list?
Ooh, Egypt.
Okay.
I want to go see the pyramids. Definitely the motherland. Heard good things about Kenya. So, and then my wife being half Samoan, I got to go to Samoa now for her side. So that's definitely on the bucket list.
That's what's up. You said a lot of powerful things, right? And just hearing all the investment, I wonder, how would you finish this question? Washington communities deserve.
Washington communities deserve authentic leadership. I think, like I mentioned before, popularity contests in politics has become kind of synonymous, right? It's like, people kind of opine and pontificate about this is what the community needs, and it's based off of not real knowledge. It's not authentic. I think it's more what sounds good, and I think, when you see the sound bites happening with our elected leaders, they're not local issues. They're talking about things happening everywhere else but their own community. Like when you see, yes, Israel-Palestine's a big issue right now. Global conflict is a big issue. But what about the addiction crisis on our streets, right? What about homelessness? What about our kids that are in the system, right? Like, and we don't hear about that stuff because it's not hot. It's not like considered popular issues. But we need authentic leadership and authentic leaders talking about the real issues that matter to community, like affordability, the cost of living crisis, addiction, and all that. So I think authentic leadership is really what we need, and that's only going to come grassroots from community members running for office. We got to have our own community members running for office. That's why I encourage young people all the time, like, instead of arguing and trying to change a system from the outside all the time, it takes that outside agitation, but we need people internally running too to get that change at the end of the day. So I think all of that is important.
That's what's up. It sounds like, a lot of trying times, and we need our community leaders, right, to be present and embrace the process. I hear a lot of people say that, like, they're not into politics, and then, like, that's probably one of the most foundational things that you should be into, right, in life right now. again, during these trying times. So I got another question for you, and it's just basically, what do you want community to believe about the future during these trying times?
You know, the future, what I would say to that is first, like, history itself is cyclical, right? It's not on this steady like incline of progress. Like, if you look back at history, we had more black elected leadership and more black educators in the 60s than we do now in 2026. And so we had this spike, and then what happened? Jim Crow, and then we kind of go down. We have a spike again, mass incarceration, the war on drugs, it goes down.
Yeah.
And so now, like, for a while, like with the Obama era, it felt like we were on the rise. Like, we were all these people running for office, and now it feels like we're kind of in this moment of, dang, like, where do we go from here? But just remember, it's always been like that. And so I think there's a little bit of like grace and knowing like we can rise again from this moment, you know, and I think it's going to take us coming together and coalition build and all this, the work that you do, frankly, as well.
Thank you.
Because that's so important to keep that hope even in amidst of tough times. But I think we will rise again. It's going to take all of us to come together, but you know, and we already see it. I mean, we have, you know, young people doing really cool things in the community. That's just doesn't make the news, right? Like, you guys mentor youth that are going to college, pursuing higher education, going into trades, and nobody talks about that. We need to uplift like success stories too. So that's why Black media is so important. So, you know, I think, you know, we will rise and just look at the success stories in our own community.
Yeah, that's powerful. I want to take a moment just to shout out Converge, right, for sharing some of the stories and the work that we've been doing, and the affirmation that you gave us for doing that work. But also take a little step back to, you know, give a shout out to our creative director, Paul Sanders at PSP Photography, Gravity Proof Media, right, for really uplifting that message that you talked about. You know what I mean? I think for us, it's like, where do we grow from here? And we need the Black media outlets, the Black creative directors, the Black creatives to really help us to share that messaging, because that's not the thing that we're strong at, right? Like, we're strong in doing the work, but when we come together, it really gives us that power to amplify what we're doing, the impact that we're making. So.
I think of it kind of too, not to cut your wisdom, but like when you look at the end of a movie, you see all the credits. And it's not always the Denzels, the Will Smiths, the star actors. Like, look at all the executive producers, the screenwriters, the stylists. And those are jobs. That's money. Like, all those people that make one movie happen. Like, I thought about that the other day. Like, man, I saw like 100 people on these credits, but we only talk about the stars. Everybody wants to be the star, but you don't have to. You know, you can. Maybe your calling is to be that person that is the creator, the innovator, the writer. So I think it's important to remember that for our youth.
That's powerful. Because I think a lot of people forget about the person behind the camera, the person behind the pen, the person behind the computer, right? So there's a lot that goes into every project. So I really appreciate you for bringing that to light. Just kind of thinking about, you know, periods in my career where, you know, I was in the back of the, you know, the project, the program, the process. I really want to give a shout out again to the people who are really making things happen for others, right? So teamwork makes the dream work. We always say there's power in unity, and that's a perfect example. So thinking about everything that you've accomplished throughout the years, being from the community, getting to this level of, you know, political aspiration and being able to continue to give back to community, when all is said and done, right, and you hang up the hat that you've created, what do you want communities to remember you for?
I would say, and it's something that really is important, especially since a few years ago my grandmother passed, and at her funeral, I remember she had probably maybe 50 to 75 people there, but it wasn't the quantity, it was what she had done in their lives, and the people at the altar, like, deep tears. Like, I had never met. I'm like, dang, my grandmother knew this person, and they're like on their knees in tears. I'm like, that's the impact I want to have. It's not necessarily how wide that we go, but how deep we go with the people that are in our community. And so I want people to remember me as someone that was authentic and really tried to do the best that he could to help that person, that individual person, get to where they want to go. And so I would love that if you know, at the end of it, you know, and people feel that way about me.
That's powerful. I want to give you some affirmation just along the journey, right? You know, in the way that you've grown, like you've been able to help us grow, So the letters of support, the advocacy for funding, the shout outs and the ways that you have continued to support our work. I just want to give you some affirmation and say thank you. We recognize it. I believe in your leadership. So super grateful for everything that you've done for us and the things that you're continuing to do for community. I'm thankful that you had a moment to take time out to spend time with your family, and I'm excited to see, what it looks like when you jump back in the political arena.
Appreciate that. Yeah.
So before we get out of here, just want to share with the people, what are you currently working on?
Yeah, so I mentioned it a little bit, but I was the founder of the Federal Way High School pre-apprenticeship program in the legislature, so we got the funding to launch it. We have juniors and seniors, over 50 kids a year, graduating, going into the construction trades, and we're trying to grow that program. We're taking a group of youth to the UK in March with school district leadership to imagine what it could look like globally. So that's one of the projects. Also, as my current role as the director of outreach for the treasurer's office, working on getting financial education in the schools as a prerequisite for graduation, because that's a foundation. You got to know about money, and a lot of our issues that we get into are about money. I know I had mine too in college. Made some mistakes. If I would have had financial ed, I probably wouldn't have done that.
Come on, that's real.
That's a big bill this year. And then the last thing is really supporting young people that want to run for office. I'm really feeling this calling to start a build the bench program where you get young people trained up to run for office. So we'll see where that goes in the next few years.
Man, when you start that project, let us know, because I think that there's a lot of support that we could give in just the way that we provide services, and I'd love to partner with you on something like that. Thank you for sharing everything that you did. You have a really powerful story. And in terms of your age, I know you're just getting started. So thinking of the ways that people could connect with you, community, etc. How can people find you? Where are you at online? What's your social media handles?
So IG is at Real Jesse Johnson.
Okay.
Facebook is Jesse Elijah Johnson. And so I update community, even though it used to be my political page, but now I just update on what I'm working on. So